Okay, well, welcome to a very special, or another special lead pastors meetup with Team Church. My name is Brandon Stewart, so excited you're here today. And I've invited, first of all, Pastor Coach K to be with us again today. Pastor Kevin, why don't you say hello to everybody?
Hey, everybody. It's a beautiful day in Seattle.
Yes, it is.
I thought I'd show off the sunshine since we don't have it real often. See a little bit of it out there, clouds, sun.
It is beautiful. There's not a lot of it there's a little bit of it in Tacoma. So but we're having a good day.
Brandon, you look like you're in a really dark little room.
I'm in your office, actually.
Looks like a medical facility or something. You okay over there?
I'm good. I hijacked your office today for this.
Oh, okay.
That's funny. Hey, I want to also welcome Pastor Justin Jenkins to the call today. A good friend of ours, one of our contributors for Team Church. Say hello to everybody, Justin.
Hey, everybody. It's good to be on here with you. Excited for this call. Can't wait to be a part of all the discussion with Pastor Kevin.
Your church has been moving quick. You've been doing some fun stuff we're going to talk about today. So because of that, you landed yourself a spot on the lead pastor's call. So you're on the hot seat today. I love it. You guys are doing a really, really great job at Velocity leading in this season. Also invited Pastor Nicole Moore, who's our location pastor for our Tacoma location at Champion Center. And she also, I think people would know that, but also may not know that she leads in a really strong way centrally here at Champion Center with a lot of our teams that support all of the locations. And so I thought she'd have a really, really great perspective just on what the heck are we doing right now, Pastor Nicole?
Would you answer that question for me? That would be really nice. No, I'm just, yeah. I'm so grateful to be here, just to be at the table. And, I did this with you and Leading Second in the Team Church Network last week with Kids Team, because our Kids Team director just had a baby. So I stepped in that area too. That's the beauty of being the central leader. You just don't know what hat you're going to wear that particular day. So, and I want you to know, I took so many notes from the exchange. And so if there's any encouragement I could offer today is that I know there's several of us on the panel who are talking. Pastor Kevin's going to give us some really great things to say, but I learned a lot last week just from the conversation that was happening in the chat room and the questions. I was taking just as many notes. So I'm here to learn as much as I am here to just offer whatever I can to be helpful.
Good. I love it. Well, the ground rules for today are, let's all ask Pastor Kevin everything we need to ask, get a bunch of wisdom from him today, and we're gonna have a lot of fun. Oh, Pace Hartfield is back. Pastor Pace Hartfield, we're just doing introductions. Why don't you say hello to us all? Lead pastor of One Place Church in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho.
Hey guys, great to be with you. Sorry about that little hiccup there.
We love technology. It is our gift right now. Okay, Pastor Kevin, get us started today maybe with this. We're seeing such a rapid response from churches right now, and a diversity of responses, from churches in this season. It's been really encouraging, I think, for us to see just the many ways that churches are going about reinventing and addressing the season that we're in. And yesterday we were in a text thread with some of our directors with Team Church, and you just encouraged everybody to be true to them and what they felt like God was asking them to do. In other words, the permission to just realize there's no one right answer in this season. I'd love if you just get us started on that thought today, just how we can be leading strong in a very unique climate right now.
Yeah, I think it's really important for everyone to hear that all of us, I've been in touch with some of the lead pastors of the country over the last couple of weeks, 10 days. And if you name some of the people that you wish you could talk to and find out what they're doing, I just want to assure you that no one has this figured out. And this is a season where everyone is taking it day by day. We're being flexible. We're trying to be true to who we are. And I think that's what, Brandon, you're referring to, is that I was encouraging some of the guys because I watch different weekend online services. And I just thought so many guys did a great job that I was watching of being true to themselves and being true to a space that they occupy really well. And so I would just encourage everybody out there to feel your way through this. And sure, it's great to talk to one another like we are right now, get ideas and share them. At the end of the day, just know that no one's way behind anyone else in this curve. We're all pretty much equal at the end of the day. And so just stay encouraged. And like I said, I have my way that I'm approaching it. Some of that comes from, honestly, past experiences I've had with online ourselves, and times when we've done Sabbath weekends or things like that. And I've tried different stuff. And so you're going to do the same thing if you're not already doing that. You're trying some stuff. And I watched Jensen Franklin last week. He spoke to an empty auditorium, played a saxophone, had a few singers on the stage. President joined in and watched. And then this weekend he went to his house and hung out with his family and played the piano a little bit in his living room. And so I just think it's okay. Just give yourself permission to figure out some of this as you go along in terms of your best approach, what you feel best about doing. And we're all gonna learn through the process. So don't anyone feel like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. Well, neither do we. We're all just figuring it out.
That's right. And Pastor Kevin, maybe talk to us for a minute on how you are evaluating the weekends. I know that you go back and you scrutinize, you look at, the broadcast, you look at our data. What are you looking at right now after each weekend to evaluate?
Well, I'm definitely into critiquing everything that we do. And so we shifted all of our metrics, for example, to line up with something different than the normal for our online experiences. And I'm not just talking about the weekend, but I'm also talking about the gatherings that we're doing through the week, men's gatherings, women's gatherings, youth gatherings, and the way that, we're doing all of that. So just laying a new template of attendance across that. And we're doing personal connecting. I don't know if that might help someone if I talk about that, but our pastors, our location pastors, have been given the go-ahead and the encouragement from me to go to the very perimeters of your congregation and your attenders and create a plan and a strategy with which we touch everyone every week. Everyone who's a member of our church. And so there's thousands of people that we are, last week we created the plan. We started it on Friday and Saturday of this past weekend, and now we're carrying it forward, improving on it. But we're just continuing to evaluate based on how are we connecting with people? How are we in contact with people? How many people are joining with us on these opportunities we're creating, as well as the weekends and the feedback we're getting from the weekends, the salvations we're getting on the weekends, the giving, of course, that we have happening on the weekend. I just got a report this morning from this past weekend and week of giving. So some very usual, but of course, from very usual metrics, but of course it comes in a different way.
Yeah, that's great. Before we get into kind of the main body of what we're going to talk about today, I'd love to ask the same question of anyone else on the call who wants to answer. Maybe we could even start with you, Pastor Nicole. I'd love to know, even from a lead or a location pastor perspective, what you're looking at and how you're encouraging the team, the team that supports you after each weekend right now.
Thank you for asking. Obviously I'm echoing and doing everything that my leader wants me to do, and what's important to Pastor Kevin is important to me. And so I am, but on a practical, practical way, this morning I met with Robin McCoy, who is our connections team lead. And last week she was our point person, and we were making phone calls. I mean, it was, it's a lot. It's a lot of phone calls, and it's too much for any one person to do. And the dividing and conquering strategy is really important to us. And so we took a stab at it last week. And then this week, what I did is I met with her and I said, let's talk about what worked and let's talk about what didn't work well for us last week. I had a watch party at my home, and a couple of people who came to my watch party walked in and said, oh my goodness, we got a phone call this week. It meant so much to us that someone in the church picked up a phone and called us just to check in on our family. And then the next thing they said was like, I'd never met her before, but it was really cool to hear from them. And so in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, we did great in the phone calling. How do we make it even more personal? So I'm looking and working with her. And now we're talking about, we have planning center lists with all of our staff and our teams, and we have team leaders. We on the weekend, we have a team huddle. Should I be doing a fun Zoom team huddle, or a one video that I can shoot out to all of the team leads or the staff that can then send to the team leads? Hey, it's Sunday. It's our game day. Let's have a great time at our locations. Let's, and challenging and encouraging them. So it's about right now for us looking at what we've done, reevaluating, and I've done that with every department today. So I met with the kids team and I asked them, we did a kids experience online this weekend. We had great feedback. And I said, that's great that we've heard from the positive. Now I'd like you to go and find a few people and ask them, how did you feel about the length of the service? What did you think about the worship videos that we sent? I mean, get some details so that we can continue to do what we do at Champion Center, which is to move church forward. Are we hitting our values? Are we expressing life in what we're doing? And I've had to make some tough calls too. Like what Pastor Kevin was saying, be true to you. I think there's a temptation right now for us to just move really fast at something, and that might compromise a bit of who we are in terms of our excellence and the quality that we want to give. So we don't want to go slow, because we do need to move fast, but then not at the stake of really costing us who we are. And, to be quite honest, our kids team produced some videos this last week. We're doing a daily Devo every single week for our kids. And I saw the video and they shot it twice and I still wasn't satisfied the second time. And I'm like, I'm sorry. And what I realized is I had delegated the wrong responsibilities to the wrong people. Meaning that I had to come back and say, I think you're great with content. You're not our person to do this talent. I want this person and this person to do the talent. And so there's a part of me that's like, yeah, I don't want to offend the team in the process, but the team shouldn't be offended so easily over something like this anyways. Like the big picture is that we all win and that our kids have a great experience. And so we made some adjustments. It's awesome. I saw the new video this morning and I felt satisfied that we found the right people. So it's a whole lot of that right now, Brandon. It's a whole lot of not like what I said to our location teams is, and centrally, like we're gonna do all that we can to be really awesome this first week. And the worst thing that we could do is then settle into that and think that's the best that we've ever done and look at us and pat ourselves on the back and feel like that's awesome. We did amazing. We can continue to push ourselves to refine, reach more, help more, connect more. And so that's what I'm doing, is just making sure that the team's not letting up and just kind of like settling into, oh, here's our new normal, here's our new pattern, and now we're just kind of just going to ride it out. So
yeah. So good. Let's do this. Let me kind of give people the lay of the land here, where we're gonna go over this call. We are going to talk for a minute about leading the language of our church. So we're going to talk with Pastor Kevin in a minute about language. And we feel like we're even hearing some new language we need to address. We are going to talk about something Pastor Nicole just mentioned, which is the need for speed. And do we do it right or do we do it fast? We're going to talk a bit about that here in a second. So great introduction on that. We're also going to talk about personal touch in a no contact world. So how do we help our churches navigate this like quarantine, no contact land that we have going on? And then I do promise you, because this is the number one question we had all week last week, we're going to talk about Easter in a few minutes. And we got the question in every meetup. I don't know that we have the answers. We're going to give it a stab. So here we go. Pastor Kevin, I'm going to throw it back to you now for a minute. Talk to us about leading the language of our church, as we are hearing some language pop up. Some of it good, but some of it also concerns us. We've heard different things just online and different conversations, people saying like, I can't wait till this season is over. Or we heard, on the opposite end, we've also heard comments like, man, online is almost better than gathering in person. And I think this is just a time where people are reacting. So how do leaders navigate and get the language right of our churches? Because I feel like if we don't, someone's going to fill the void of.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of the most common mistakes we make anytime in leadership, is to assume that to elevate one thing, we have to put down another thing. And so I call that dumb dichotomies. This is a season for us to not put down the value of our physical gatherings. And I like this past weekend, I said at the outset of my message, I said, to be honest with you, church family, I miss gathering with you. I miss being in our auditoriums together. There's nothing that replaces us physically being together. But this is a great option. And I'm so glad that we get to stay connected, not just on the weekends, but throughout the week. So for me, just to give you a little bit of thought behind that, is that I feel like, not like an example, maybe you could just throw in an example and say, when we're away from someone that we love, we're away from our loved ones, we travel, we're not together physically. In our area, we have military. So, I mentioned military. We have to be apart sometimes. And thankfully, we can now see one another's faces. We can join online experiences. We can get on the phone. We can stay in constant contact with each other, texting, technology, whatever it might be. But nothing replaces the moment we're back together. When the hugs can happen, the handshakes can happen. So I think just helping people to feel liberty and freedom from needing to elevate one experience, above another one. And I also want to just say that I think if we champion both right now, another part of this season for me would be that I put out on the first weekend, I told a story of my mom and dad were not able to come to my daughter Jody's wedding, but because of her health, but they were 3,000 miles away. And my dad and my mom, I didn't know they did this until later. Someone at the house told me that my dad went and got his suit on, and my mom went and got her dress on, and my dad ordered flowers into the house. And my dad and my mom sat down in front of the TV. I sent them the link, in other words, so they could join us and be a part of it. Here they are 3,000 miles away. The link is on, and they sat in their chairs and held hands together right in front of the TV in the suit and in the dress and flowers, and participated in the wedding like that. And when I found out about that, it was so emotional for our family just to hear the report from friends who were there helping my mom and dad set up the technology, that's how mom and dad approached it. So I shared that with our church family on the very first weekend. And I said, I want to just encourage everyone and remind you that how we treat something is it determines what we get out of it. And so however long this season is, how about we just agree that we're not going to, I'm going to ask you, don't just lay in bed for church services. Get up, shower, comb your hair, brush your teeth, get into the biggest screen that you have, turn up the music really loud, even if it's just you and your family, your kids, dance around the living room and lean into the service, and that will that will bring the experience way, way up. So after telling that, it was really cool because our church family is now getting on social media, and they're repeating that. And they're talking about, I'm all showered, I'm ready to go. And they're pointing to the television screen. This is my big screen. Can't wait for church today. So it's created this dynamic by raising the bar in how we treat our weekend services and all of our experiences while we're together. So language-wise, those are some of the ideas and thoughts that I've taken, and I would just encourage everybody to have something similar to that so that people know, hey, how do we do this? What do we say? How do we treat it? And if we lead that way, they'll follow that way, and the experience will be a whole lot better for them.
I would. Go ahead, Nicole.
Just to follow up with that, Pastor Kevin, maybe just add, you talked to us too about speaking to what we are doing, not what we're not doing. I think that that's another key element of what you're saying to us staff behind the scenes, so that we have a filter to know what we're putting out there and what we're not. Maybe you could just share about that.
Yeah, so I got upset. Actually, is how it happened. I got upset because one of the teams had big letters on their announcement on social media, postponed. Like the first thing I saw was postponed. And I'm like, what is going on? I don't want to hear about what's postponed. You can explain that by phone calls or whatever, but we are churches on right now. And I want you to accentuate and lean in to what we are doing, not what we're not doing.
Pastor Justin, did you guys have something to say?
I would just say, as a way of something that's been helpful for our team is thinking in regards to contextualization, because in essence, that's what we're doing here. Most of us have already had an online experience already. Some are new to it. Contextualization just being a missions term, and here we are now online. And what's so important, just to echo what Pastor Kevin is saying, what's so important, what's helped our team is be free to use your existing language. Like, you have code, you have culture, you have values, contextualize it within the context of the mission we are in right now in a digital format. So you don't have to come up, in some ways, you don't have to come up with a new language. You just need to contextualize the language that we've already created. And I just think that's going to be really important, but also set some people free and going, okay, you have an established culture. A question that we're asking is, Pastor Kevin, you said at the beginning, like, you just give us great freedom. How can you stay true to yourself, remain who you are as a church, as a pastor? So a question we're asking is, in a digital platform, how do the strengths of who we are in a live environment translate online? Whatever that may be. So you may have to adjust your preaching, because it translates one way in the live, but in another way online. So all of this is contextualization, and the handle is to stay true to you, hold on to the language that you've already created, especially just all of us holding on to the language we've already created, and then just, formatting it for being digital.
Yeah, I want to just say that the reason that I like going as normal as I can on the weekends is because everything else is changing. Like, in a changing world, I feel like the one thing I can provide is, at least I have been able to so far, and that is see me on that stage, see our worship team on that stage. And that's been my thought, my approach. But I also I mentioned, Jensen. I also saw a couple of our guy, Jason Warman, I thought did a really good job communicating, sitting at a table. I just don't want to strip anyone from the privilege and opportunity of exploring. But I'm glad you brought that up, Pace, because that's my approach, is that there's some real strength in what we provide every weekend, that people, if I can give that to them, as much of that strength on the weekend, that's been my choice.
I love what's been said. So much of what we're doing right now really is about context. And I think what we can do as leaders, what we should be doing, is really establish the goals so that our team knows what they're moving towards. And your goals in your church right now is something that you have to contextualize. So, for us, looking in our city is about 100,000 people. There's not a lot of churches like us. And so we really felt like we could provide a service by not trying to show what church is like normally, but really trying to reach a whole new broad segment of people. I think we're going to keep our existing people engaged through our communication plan, different things that we set in motion. But for me coming in, looking at our context where we do ministry, I'm thinking, how can we reach some new people that we've never reached before? Now that I've got some staff people where their position has had to change, their job role has had to change. So the thing I'd encourage a lot of people on this call is don't just contextualize it for the way your church does things, but even within your community and what's important for you as a leader. I think as long as you understand the intention, I love what Pastor Kevin said. It's like, there's so much changing right now. I want to keep some consistency for people. And I'm seeing some of the questions on the chat, everything from how you do live streaming to what you measure. It's important for us as leaders to know why it matters to us. And if you know why it matters to you, then you can communicate that to your team.
Awesome. Well said, guys. Well said. Justin, I'm going to keep you up here for a second. You're on the hot seat. Moving on to kind of our next section here. We're going to talk for a minute about the need for speed, but I really want to highlight something you did, talking about contextualizing and repositioning your team. You all put together, maybe you can tell the story better than I can, but you all put together a whole new website for your church very quickly over a day or two. This past week, you built it all around an online only approach, and you did it in a really simple way. I mean, I think in some ways we would have almost overlooked it, using Squarespace or whatnot. So I would just love you to unpack for a minute what you did and why you did it, because I thought it was just brilliant for you and your team to quickly reinvent some things in this season.
Well, again, so context is everything, and I think it's important to understand just a little bit of our stories. We have 2 locations. Both of our locations are portable, so with the things going on in our county, we got word that we wouldn't be able to meet there anymore, and so we were scrambling to come up with the plan B. The other thing is, bear in mind, I didn't like our last website, so it was like on our radar to repackage before Easter anyway. So we'd already been having some of those conversations, and with me having the goal for our team, basically that after our first, for us it was Friday at 5, we got the word we couldn't meet in our locations. We had to quickly put together service for Sunday. After that Sunday was over on Monday, we had a team meeting, and I needed to know everything that was people were working on over the next 90 days and then reprioritize their plans. And for us, we just that just turned into a brainstorming session of, we don't know how long this is going to be. What does church look like now? And not how do we maintain, but how do we gain ground during this time? So that's really the thought. How do we not just maintain what we have, but how do we reach new people and grow new people? And our thought is, we don't have a building anyway. And so much of our websites are about helping people see what church looks like. It's the front door to our building. This is what the worship experience looks like. This is what the preaching looks like. This is what our building looks like, so you know where you're going when you get there. And we thought, what if we just rethought this whole process? We don't have buildings we can meet at. We need a new website. We don't know how long this is going to go on. Let's try and show people what church looks like right now. And again, our context, not a lot of churches like us. Let's be a local church for people that really need hope in this moment. So if people Google church, they're not seeing a building, they're not seeing a worship service, they're saying, hey, this is how I engage with God's word. This is how I engage with prayer. This is how I engage with people. And so it came out of a brainstorming session for our team. And I was like, all right, this is priority 1. We need 5 people on it. We're not sleeping till this is done. And that was the genesis behind it.
And hey, Brandon, when he shared it with some of us, he said it hasn't gone up yet, and the games began. The race was on to see who could get theirs up first. It was a great plan. I thought it was brilliant. We also are rebuilding. We're rebuilding a new website. But I just loved the way, Justin, I told you this already, I just thought it was brilliant the way you leaned into this season and drove everybody. Basically, you're driving everybody to the current experience that we're all having via this simple but very clean and clear website.
I think I loved too that you did it on Squarespace. You know, is there a time and a place to hire a web developer and build out a custom site or something? You know, absolutely, those things have their time and their place, but not in the ER. You know, not in the triage, you know, kind of climate we're in right now. Speed, you did it excellently, by the way, but speed was necessary, and it's inexpensive. And I mean, Champion Center, we followed suit. We got a new site up thanks to your inspiration. We got a new site up in a couple days to address some of this, and we might continue changing, who knows. But you really led us down, I think, a great train of thought of not being encumbered by the cost and the, you know, some of the usual, you know, processes we go through. PK, I'd love for you just to talk for a minute about the need for speed. We did a podcast on this actually a few episodes ago with the Team Church podcast. You know, do we do it right or do we do it now? And we're trying to say yes.
Right. The answer is, that's what I was going to say. The answer is yes. Doing it right, yes. Doing it fast, yes. And I think Pastor Nicole spoke well to that we're definitely stopping some things from going out there because it doesn't have the kind of quality or, you know, just we don't feel like it's the right representation. On the other hand, we're not as concerned about being polished right now. We're not as concerned about our normal maybe approach to even online stuff. And I'm speaking about the stuff we do during the week, is that we just want to get out there and make sure we do get out there. And I think that we have to be fast. I think if you're watching today and your tendency is right now to feel like, well, I'm not really set up, you know, to communicate with my people, I would press you on that and say you probably are a whole lot more ready than you think you are. And you don't need all the elaborate stuff right now. They want to see your face. They want to hear your voice. And they want to know that they're being connected. Personally, just to share with that whole speed thing is that I feel like a lot of people have rushed toward their communities right now. And I want to preface it by saying we are in our community. We're fortunate enough to have a foundation with its leaders and everyone in place. But just for what it's worth, I told them we hit the pause button on that for 1 week. And I said, first things first, church family first. If we connect with our church family and we care for them quickly and they hear our voice, they hear us talking to them and caring for them, they will follow our lead to serve their community. We'll gather a whole lot more people. We'll be a whole lot more on point, on mission, and effective as salt and light to the community when they feel and sense, wow, our church is actually still very, very strong in our togetherness and our care for one another. So just for what it's worth, that priority to me of doing it and doing it quickly and moving fast with whatever equipment, you know, you have, just the computer in front of you right now. I'm watching people like Governor Cuomo, of course, President Trump, and really appreciating the consistency and the constancy with which these leaders specifically are communicating in New York and then in our country. And I would just say, don't underestimate who you are in the lives of your church family, whether that's 80 people, whether that's 8,000 people, you matter. And them knowing that you as their leader is right in the mix with them, speaking life to them. Don't be worried. Don't think, well, hey, there's a whole lot of great leaders out there, you know, that are communicating. There's no voice like your voice. So do not underestimate. Be quick to be there. You're probably already doing some of that, but I would just say speed means a whole lot right now.
Yeah, that's really good, PK. I want to go to a question that came in from Carrie Robinson. We love Carrie, Megan, and movement. But so this is going to set up, because we don't want to create dumb dichotomies here. So this will be a tension with the speed thing. He wrote this: with the fluidity of our climate right now, how are you navigating days off with your team? So every day kind of feels like full court press, where, it's no sleep till Sunday, kind of a feel. How are we balancing that also with rest and rhythm, our staff and leaders taking care of themselves?
Ask me that in a couple of weeks. We haven't found a day off yet.
Come on.
I don't mean to be laughing or making light of it, but I think honestly, I try to sense how our team's doing, and I feel like the care, the pastoral care, the connectivity, the actual asking, hey, how are you? How's your family? Can go a long ways. Right now, our teams, at least in my experience of our team really wants to help. Like, they want to serve. This is all new, and they're not sure how to do this, but they want to be on board, and they are game to be on board and plugged into a purposeful mission and direction. So I haven't really worried a lot about it, honestly. Friday is our normal day. Pastor Nicole would probably know more of the weather. We kind of relaxed on Friday. I can't even remember, but honestly, right now it's not a big deal to me.
Can I maybe just to add to that, what I'm finding in working with the team is that if the vision is really clear and people are excited about what the possibilities could be, I'm not having an issue with anybody saying, man, I'm just so overwhelmed, I need a day off. Like today, this morning, working with the kids team, we got excited talking about what we could do this week. And hey, let's think about a different way, out of the box. Everything's thinking out of the box. And the fact that we're appealing to creativity right now is very inspiring. It is taking us a bit out of maybe some of our day-to-day routine. There's just some things about our job that can become monotonous after a while. And this is all just kind of moving us away from that, and there's some excitement in that. And I feel like if you can appeal to that what could the possibilities be this week? How could we do church differently this week? And I think what Pastor Kevin's saying about the non-negotiables, the things that we know we want to do for sure, which is how do we push ourselves to care more, reach people, connect with people, face-to-face, phone calls, whatever it might be. And maybe there's a better way to do it this week than we did it last week. And we're okay with like recognizing, yeah, we hit some marks there. We probably could have done better there. But I think it's about that inspiring picture of the future possibilities and how could we get creative this week is what is inspiring our team. And no one's saying to me, they're like, oh, this is so fun. Like, oh my gosh, they're leaving my office fired up, fueled up, ready to go. And I'm not concerned about them saying I'm burnt out, I'm tired, I'm overwhelmed. I mean, we have those moments where it's coming at us 1,000 miles a minute, and we did take some rest on Friday and we did disengage for a season, but not like completely checked out, I guess. We're disengaged to kind of refresh, refuel, but still with our eyes and our ears open, because what I'm saying to team is we don't need employees right now, we need owners. And an owner of a business is not thinking about a day off right now. An owner of a business is thinking, man, I got to do whatever I got to do to help keep this ship going and moving because it matters to people.
In all of that, I would, Carrie, just to give you two very real examples in all that, I think our communication right now, because especially a lot of us are doing it via text or Marco or whatever you use, fight for clarity. Here's would be a very real example. Last night, I texted somebody on our team and just said, no rush on this, but when will the message be edited and what time will it be? I'm not asking you this to rush you. I'm asking you because I'm curious. So in that text, he said, today I talked to him, said, thank you for clarifying no rush, because if you would have just said, when will it be edited and posted? He would have said, I would have stopped the movie I was watching with my son and I would have edited and posted it. Now, there are things that what we had as a baseline discussion today with our team is just say, hey, we all know that we're in a season of being incredibly flexible and we are adjusting and we are adapting to a new norm. However, we have to know that if we need to have a baseline understanding. If we are asking each other to do something in a time where we're not normally working, just make sure that it's necessary now. If it's not in the communication, say that. And that's just been helpful for us.
Good. We have by the way, we have something that might help all you guys. And Nicole, maybe they could just send email to you for more details, but just sharing what we created as far as the check-in every day. Our employees do check in every day. There's a system where there's about 3 or 4 questions that they answer, and they do it twice a day. They do it in the morning, and they do it around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So that if we could give Nicole's email.
You can actually leave a comment in the chat with an email, and we have team on here grabbing all that information, and we'll be sure to follow up.
Okay.
So if you want what Pastor Kevin's talking about, you can raise your hand or put it in the chat, as is happening now, I see, and our team will grab that.
And even to that point, PK.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry
about. Yeah, even to that point, PK. I mean, we've one thing I've found is just the need for extra communication, and so we've done that same thing where we use Basecamp. People might use other things. You can do automatic check-ins. So we kind of have it's like staff all call right now. We have a lead team, but everybody who we consider staff is in this Basecamp. And the one question they have to answer every day is, what are you working on today to contribute to the priorities that we've established? And part of the reason that's important for me as a leader, just because people, when you're in a new situation and there's a lot of confusion, not through any fault of their own, people just need direction. And sometimes they might be putting their energy towards something well-meaning. It's just not the most important thing right now. So when you're talking about kind of a full court press every day, that's been really helpful for us. And then 2, our lead team, we do a 30-minute Zoom check-in every morning. And we just started that recently in this time, just to make sure that, because it's, again, to Pace's point, there's a lot of opportunity for a lack of clarity when it's just text communication. So sometimes having face-to-face communication can help bring some clarity to those things that maybe you've already established.
Our work week, by the way, typically is Monday through Thursday, and then weekend services. So a lot of our staff, they think of Sundays as like a half day of work. We're not as worried about Friday and Saturday on the check-in thing, but we definitely are Monday through Thursday, twice a day. And then most of our team is a part in one way or another of the weekend experience on Sunday. They're on chat, they're answering questions, they're connecting with church family, et cetera, et cetera.
Maybe I can just add to that too about the weekend. We learned when we did a Sabbath weekend a while back that when you say to your team, hey, just go online and communicate and engage, what we found is we hadn't given clear enough direction of who was on which platform. So we now have assignments. So every staff member knows which platform at which service they're responsible to be leading in that conversation. If they're not on an assigned platform, then they're free to float around. They're still expected to be engaged, but they can float between the platforms because we're trying to cover YouTube, our website, and Facebook. So that really helped us, and we get that sent out to us every weekend, so we all know it's very clear where everyone belongs and who's going to be logging into what.
Well said, guys. Well said. I have one more thing I want to get to with PK, and then we're going to talk Easter and upcoming events here in a second. Pastor Kevin, switching gears, we really felt like your book, Naked and Unafraid, it was already really timely for so many of us, and then we all got quarantined. And now we're all in homes, and we're holed up with people, and we're also in kind of this we're in this no contact world, but then we're in close quarters with our families. And in seasons of isolation, relationships can be tested. So I think we need to be sensitive to the fact this is happening in our churches right now, above, economic issues and closures and all that, people are navigating very real relational territory. So I'd just love for you to speak to that for a minute and how you intend to really help lead, our church and churches through this season of social isolation in a healthy way.
Yeah, I feel like that it's the next frontier for all of us to begin actually right now to talk about. Maybe you're wondering, what does my church want to hear and need to hear from me if I'm going to be connecting on a consistent basis, whether it's every day or whether it's, once a week, or what is it that I can do and speak to? I would say lean in to, and maybe just research a little bit and lean into the whole how to deal with isolation issues. And isolation is a really big deal in terms of studies that are done on it and the way it impacts people, it impacts relationships. There's a whole lot of problems that can happen and struggles that occur. So, for example, right now, 3-word sentences are very valuable. I love you. I miss you. You mean the world to me. We're going to get through this. Those kind of just talking to your church family and encouraging them to up the volume of that sort of conversation is one example of the kinds of things that right now we got to lean into and start helping people who are in close quarters for long periods of time. Some of them have several children and young children, and they're out of school. And some of you right now, some of you pastors definitely even identify with this. What can we do to add some sort of structure as well as levity to our relationships right now and create an expectation that the worst of times can actually be the best of times? And what I mean, how can we resource people to see the opportunity that this season is presenting to them as a couple, as a family, as a parent, and to lean into the awareness, raise the awareness with people of the opportunity we have right now to do things that we normally say we don't have time to do. We don't have time for certain conversations, but we do now. So some of the most beautiful, I'm saying to people, if you'll watch for it, you're going to have some of your best memories that are going to come out of this season, even in your relationships. If you'll approach this right with the right heart and the right attitude and ask God for wisdom, some of the connectivity that hasn't been in your marriage can actually come into your marriage now. And husbands and wives can grow closer together. It could be moments after the children are in bed that, a husband and a wife get an opportunity to actually talk and share and discuss, and to walk away from all of this remembering, hey, it was on that night when we actually were able to process through that the sweetest conversations happened that night. We were able to dig, and now after this is all over, here we are on the other side of this experience, being stronger and better than we've ever been. You mentioned Naked and Unafraid, and I'm going to actually start tomorrow with we can talk about that later. I don't want to turn this into a promo, but there is a section, being your best in the stress, for example, that I would encourage you to think about. How do we be our best in the stress? That's what this is all about. There's never been a more of a sense of risk than there is right now. It just feels like everything's risky. Like leaving your home and touching a door handle feels risky. Getting within 6 feet of somebody feels risky. I live where we have elevators, and right now when people are on the elevator and it stops, we're like, are you well? Are you okay? Before we get on the elevator. There's this pointed conversation because we feel at risk. But here's the deal. This is a season where we can risk exposure in a unique way, a different way, being vulnerable, being open with the people that we love, having conversations. I'm telling you this and with great passion. You can tell I'm feeling more connected to my grandsons right now because they've hung out, they've spent the night with me, they don't have to go to school the next day, the normal routine is broken, and I'm just feeling like, man, I'm just having another level of interaction and relationship with them. Sheila and I, yeah, we're getting in one another's hair right now. There are moments that there's intensity, but we're also being really aware, and we're having conversations that I feel like are so helpful and valuable and beneficial. So anyway, I guess I'm commissioning you as pastors and leaders and church leaders right now. Let's help people identify the opportunity. Let's help people. Just keep helping people identify the opportunity that's in this. And a lot of it has to do with being unafraid to be vulnerable, get naked, get unafraid in a unique way with the closeness and the proximity that this season is requiring from us.
Well said. Well said. And PK, I was actually going to ask you next about what you're planning to do this week. I think you have some Instagram or some IGTV things coming up this week on that. Why don't you tell us?
We're just going to, tomorrow at noon, and then every day for however long, Sheila and I are going to jump on at noon. And this is what we're going to lean into. Some of what I've learned and become really passionate about through Naked and Unafraid is applicable in this season and the time that we're in right now.
Awesome.
I want to help people. I mean, I just want to help people see the opportunity at a very personal level. I had a 70-year-old man, a friend of mine, that said, man, I read your book through once, and then I read Pastor Jody's book, Fight for Your Life, through once, and now I'm reading your book through again, Pastor Kevin. And this guy, by the way, doesn't come to our church and all of that. He's a Catholic background, but he said, I'm going to read it 3 times because everything that helps me, I read it 3 times through. And right now, he's just so stoked about, the opportunity he has to actually read and grow and be encouraged and apply. So that's just an example of what we can encourage people to do right now. Read more, pray more, love more, care more, be with your family in a positive way more now than ever before.
And one other resource, Brandon, just to interrupt here, our kids right now maybe don't know how to talk about this or express this. Mind Monsters for Kids is a great, we've been pointing our team to it and our families to it. It's a great resource because it gets that conversation going.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. So true.
Well said. Okay, we have a few minutes left. I'm calling lightning round here. We're just gonna hit several topics that have kind of come in and short answers, lots of questions. That's what we're gonna kind of go for here for the last few minutes. But I do want to talk Easter. So Easter, and I think we're even seeing some questions coming in. People have large events planned for May, June. Wise people, what do we do? What do we do? Where are our minds at right now regarding large gatherings coming up? PK, do you want to start?
Yeah, did you say me or somebody else? Yeah, I'll start real quick just to tell you that we shut down spending money for things like Easter right now. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm praying that one of these medicines that they are looking at right now will come through, and a lot of this will be lifted. And I hope we get to have Easter together. But every day that passes, it doesn't look as positive. So we basically shut down the plans that we had. And I feel like if we do have Easter together, I wouldn't want that plan anyway. I want to be in the moment, and I want to be able to, gather back together with joy. So that's how we're approaching Easter. I would just say on stuff like that, don't announce anything yet. Don't get out there with an announcement into the future, because we never know. We're praying for things to be short term here, and that's how we're approaching it.
We're looking to try to marry, elements that translate whether we're live or online. For example, for the next 3 days, this weekend, I announced a thing that we were calling the Victory Wall. Our Easter theme is victory. And so out in the lobby today, what we have people doing, I'm about to go shoot a quick IGTV video for it. We're having people DM and email us, people they're believing for that need to come to know Jesus, things that they need victory for. And so this big giant white wall, we're going to be writing those names. We were going to do this on our weekend anyway for the next weeks moving up. Well, now we're just taking it and doing video and posting on IGTV. And then what's going to happen is we do a big Easter reveal 2 weeks prior. And over all of those names we're praying for, and also, the people that are praying for, hey, I need a breakthrough here, I need victory here. Our Easter art, which is a giant lion and the word victory over it, will be painted over those names. So trying to figure out ways that we can combine what we're doing, what we planned on doing here on campus, but then now folding it into getting engagement, get them, hey, DM us, email us, let us know how we can pray for you, and get them involved in it.
So good.
We, I think the good thing is for people who may have to change their plans is now you've got 2021 Easter already taken care of. You know what you're doing. But for us, we're rethinking our Easter plans. We're planning on doing something filmed. And the good news is we've done 2 filmed Easter experiences in the past just on a normal Sunday. So it's not completely out of the norm for us. Again, it goes back to what you're saying, Pace, and even you, PK, about being authentic to you. So we're going to try and create as much as we can a really cinematic Easter experience for an online experience.
Just to go back to something PK said earlier, if you've not yet done a different setting, for example, you haven't been in your living room for a Sunday yet or whatever, might you just consider holding off to set Easter off a little different? Like maybe you wait for that idea and wait to do something like Justin's saying, or take it somewhere else so that it does stand in contrast and you're doing something fresh and different for Easter.
Yeah, great. Well said. Hey, I want to talk finances for a minute and giving. There's some uncertainty in giving coming in, so I'd love to hear where your minds are all at right now. I think specifically, we've had a couple questions come in about church expansion projects. So building projects in this season. I'd love to hear any wisdom for some pastors right now on just how to be thinking or handling if they're in the middle of one or we're getting ready to start one, church expansion project in this season.
Well, I think probably as far as the expansion specifically, it would be Justin, right? Justin's
right
on the very front end of that.
We're getting ready to buy a building. In fact, I'm going to be back at the building tomorrow, looking at it with our realtor and going through, because we're negotiating the contract right now. And everybody's situation is going to be different. What I've found so far is the kingdom builders, legacy people, we call ours, they're not worried. They're not freaking out, wondering about the stock market. Odds are pretty good. They're one, if they're generous, they're God. Two, if they have means, they've weathered some storms to get there. So I've had great conversations with our kingdom builders, our visioneering team. And what I'm doing, like in addition to all the online stuff, as much as possible, my church might not be as large as some of the people on here. I've got about 100 visioneering people that I'm going to work hard to connect with one-on-one. Some might just be phone calls. Some might just be virtual meetings. As much as I can, I'm going to try and get in their home or invite them to my home or meet them in person to share the vision. We had a big announcement. We had to cancel that. So what I'm doing now is trying to make it as valuable and meaningful to them as possible, which is to present it to them in person. And I'm just being a pastor to them. So it's, hey, what's going on in your family right now? How can I pray for you, your business? being a pastor to them, and then sharing vision with them one-on-one. And it's been great so far.
Awesome. Hey, we had a question come in from Stephen Yos down in the Houston area. It's wondering about how often a senior leader should communicate with the church at large right now. You don't want to oversaturate. You don't want to, go too little. So I'm wondering if anyone has any thoughts quick on how much senior leaders should be in front of their people right now.
Well, I think I mentioned it earlier. I think it depends on what kind of being in front of people, that you would be referring to. I prefer more now than normal to put my face out there on greetings, social media, specific groups. We were just talking about givers. Last week, I did personal greeting to all of them. And I did one for our legacy team specifically as well. And so I'm choosing to be out there in those spaces more often and clearly addressing specific groups more often now than ever before. So that would be my take on it. I think probably in our situation, I'm pushing other people to the front as well. I'm not leading any of those groups, the men's groups, the women's groups, the parenting groups, the youth groups. They're all seeing our other pastors. Our location pastors are, they're doing similar things with Contact and Connect, but that's the way we're approaching it.
Awesome. I had a question come in about a pastor who is mobile right now. They're obviously not meeting and they're in a mobile location. They've considered canceling their lease, until further notice. Do you have any thoughts on, I guess, wisdom of a portable church navigating, this season, paying for a lease they're not in, that kind of a thing?
I'm in the mindset of not using the word cancel. Maybe they would consider reaching out to the owner and ask him to defer payment.
Very good. I agree. Postpone, cancel, out of our vocabulary right now.
Awesome. Love it. Straight to the point.
Trying to be really short and precise when you said machine gun,
Yep.
kind of.
Perfect. I had another one come in, and we'll land the plane here in just a second to respect everyone's time. If a shelter in place comes in for Washington State, or I guess really for any state, Pastor Kevin, what's your mindset right now on still gathering to broadcast, services or record them? Or do you plan to move, things to your home, that kind of a thing?
Yeah, let me just explain to you what I've been told by our attorneys that is pretty much driving the liberty that I have to continue to do what I'm doing. There's two ways that churches are viewed. And depending on your state, the first one would be everybody's hearing, the lingo right now that there are essential roles, essential individuals, essential persons. And so, for example, if you happen to be joining us in California, I read yours and haven't yet got a copy of our state to verify if it's read the same way. But in California, you are literally now in a place of being essential, viewed as essential, and that is spelled out clearly. If you want this verbiage, we'll get it to you, but it's spelled out clearly as even being and applying to doing online and whatever mediums you need to connect and communicate with faith to your church family and others. So that's the first one that is being considered in most states. The second one that our attorney made me aware of right off the bat is that we are not a public gathering, we are a private gathering. And so he said, when it comes to the law and separation of church and state, he said, I just want you to understand that you are not in that category. Now, he advised me to just, go along with everything to the extent that I can and support my local leaders, which is, of course, what we want to do, by canceling our normal services and going and physical gatherings and going to the online. But I'm not afraid because of those two reasons. I feel like we have coverage that makes us different. And so, again, the second one is just your religious freedom. The first one is you are an essential, as a pastor, church leader, you're an essential person. I also would say that I think Governor Como used the phrase today that we are socially distanced, spiritually connected. And I thought that was beautiful. He was saying this is the goal, that people would be socially distanced but would be spiritually connected. So we really are, and in our state, I don't know that our governor views it as well as others, but I'm going to push for that, and I'm going to step into that space as much as I can. That there's some gaps we fill that are really important to society right now. So so that's the legal part of it. My plan right now is I want to listen to what our governor says today. I think he's going to do what other states are doing right now, and tell people to stay home with even stronger language or request. But my plan right now is to go ahead and do church for the weekend, and so I'll be getting out. I'll be going to our services, our buildings rather. I'll be having worship teams along with us. We're going to respect social distancing in that process. And but that's my plan. I'm going to continue to do what I did last weekend. I shut the amount of people down. I kept it way down this week compared to last week. We kind of opened it up last week and had more of a capture service, but we went smaller this week, and that's my plan.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank everybody for a few minutes today. We've had a really, really great discussion. I hope this has helped any pastors that were able to join us live or to catch this afterwards. Pastor Kevin, would you just land the plane for us here today? Any final words you want to say? And maybe just pray over everybody before we're done.
Yeah, I guess the big thing that's been on my heart is to say to all of our church leaders and pastors how important you really are in this season. And I've been praying for you, and I know that you're praying for us and praying for one another. This is a time in history that we've never experienced this before. And when all of this is over, I genuinely believe this is not rhetoric. It's not just chiming in for the sake of saying it. I genuinely believe that God's church is going to be stronger on the other side of this experience. And so I want to encourage you to continue to see your value and continue to get up every day in a way that you meet the moment. I'll give you an example. Today, Sheila and I got up, in the morning, our normal wake up times. We didn't have to, but we got up and we had a little coffee and we hit the streets, meaning we went out for walks, climbing stairs. The gyms are closed that we normally would use. We're climbing the stairs, getting our blood circulating, having some really good conversations and talks. Ended it by having another coffee at Starbucks. We went through Starbucks, got a little bit of breakfast, coffee, came home, and I showered, and I got refreshed, kind of similar to what I would do on any other day, but I'm actually not leaving today. Some of our team is at offices and need to be. We're here at our house today. My point in telling you this is that you got to create this awareness, if you don't have it already, that this is, you're a very important person right now. You matter to some people that are looking to you for strength and encouragement. And so I would just say it, and I want to say it loud, that this is maybe in some ways the worst of times, but in other ways the best of times. So please take care of yourself. Please stay strong. Please stay healthy. Keep your mind right. Figure out ways to cope with this, so that if you have a little ADD going and you're feeling like the walls are closing in on you, figure out something, because we need you. God needs you. The people need you to stay in a right shape for however long this is, so that we can weather the storm and come out on the other side with some real gold that we gained in the process. So bless you guys. Thank you today for every person, every man, every woman. God, we thank you today for those who have joined us and are part of our time together. Pray, God, over our spiritual leaders. I pray over our pastors, over our churches today. I ask you, God, to continue to give us the guidance, the direction of the Holy Spirit through this season and through this time. We pray, God, that we might be stronger and better right now, that we might be our best in the stress, that, Lord, when we would have a tendency to just doubt or worry too much, God, that the peace that passes all understanding would fill our hearts and fill our minds. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Pastor Kevin. Thank you, guys, for joining us today. Also, I'm just going to tease this. We just had some conversation open up this morning. We're looking at a way to maybe create some ongoing interaction, whether it be a Facebook group or whatnot, for lead pastors. So stay tuned, and we're just going to keep finding ways to be together, talk with you all. But we love you. Thanks for joining us today. God bless you all. You are dismissed.